Hello everybody and welcome back to Stoneblock 3. I have been busy, as you can probably guess. We'll go over there and take a look at that in just a second. For right now, I actually kind of just wanted to mention that this right here, this is where we started from. This is block 00. I have 3, well, 0 minus 1, but we spawned standing on that block, and I thought it'd be fun to just kind of mark it so we can kind of keep track of how things have expanded. Going over what I did between the last episode and this one, I made myself a create toolbox. I've got a bunch of the different create components all stored up in here, and these things are really cool. If you're standing close to it and you hold down Alt, you get this nice little menu, and you can just grab out whatever it is that you need, you know, plunk it down, and when you're done, you can just send it away and pick these up, and we'll pop them back in there. So that should be should be really helpful for continuing to build stuff with Create. Now, obviously, we did all of this stuff last time. I've added a couple more things. I have a deployer here now for making a few things with deployers. I added a saw as well because there's a few things we can mass produce. Hunter. I did change out to putting a trapdoor here just because I didn't like having the big glass block. Down here, this is where the exciting part has come in. So I've got some steam engines going. And unfortunately, we don't have access to blaze burners yet because I haven't been able to get to the Nether. So we're just using campfires for now. They're the easiest heat source to use for something like this. We could also use lava, which is relatively easy to get in this pack. The problem is that lava spreads and catches fire to things. They all have the same relative level of heat, so we're not going to get any hotter by using lava. But we do have our generators on there, and they're all attached with belts to the rest of network. Come over here and take a look at the gauge. You can see that I've got all of this additional capacity now, so we've got plenty of room. Put a lot more components on here, which we're probably going to end up doing. I also added another acting drawer, so that'll actually take us all the way down to the 3x compressed cobble. But what's going on over here, as you can see, I made a second cobble generator, and it's still backing up. We're full. Like, everything is full, except for the dust. I'm not sure. I think I got to figure out a better solution for this setup, because this setup doesn't seem like it really wants to work too well. I have a couple of ideas that we might be able to do. I just need to get them into here. And then from here, we're sending them up to the top side, which we'll go over in just a second. So there's probably some better ways to... part of the problem is that they're coming out of here as single blocks, which might be solvable by just changing these for the brass tunnels, or funnels rather, because the andesite only allows a single block out at a time. And as you can see from the buffer there, it's got multiple stacks in there. So I don't know if that's something that the funnel can fix, or if that's a limitation of the auto hammer itself. But this is making, as you can see, making gravel, sand, and dust, which are the 3 main components that create resources for us. And then we need to take these and we need to wash them. The rest of what's down here, I have built this, and this is a andesite casing crafter. Well, actually, it can be used for any type of casing, because the only difference is what block you actually put on it. Right, obviously, alloy. Or copper, you would put a piece of copper. Brass, you put a piece of grass, and then brass, not grass, you put a piece of grass. But it all goes onto a stripped log. Logs in there, they go across here, get stripped, and then this places casing to it. And so that's something we can set this up with a whole bunch of stuff, and then we can walk away from it, and it'll just do its thing in the background. Other side, I have this contraption going. What this is a setup to allow us to create the precision mechanism. These things are really useful. They're used in a lot of different recipes. for some very useful things. The ones that I'm super interested in are the rotation speed controller and the mechanical arm. These two are going to be super helpful as we keep going and keep expanding the base. There's also a few other things that we can do that are fun, like the extendo grip is a lot of fun, and the potato cannon is a lot of fun to play around with. And the way that this works, as you can see, I've already kind of got it all set up. So each one of these hands has a different stage of the crafting process. On here, you need to put you take a golden sheet, put a cogwheel on it, then a large cogwheel, then an iron nugget, and you have to do that whole sequence 5 times in order. And then you have an 80% chance of getting a precision mechanism and a 20% chance of getting some random piece of junk. So this one is already set up with a filter. So this has a filter on it, and I've set this filter up with all of the various, well, almost all of the junk items that can be produced from this process. It also has a chance of producing a golden sheet, but if it does that, we don't need to store that. We can start the whole process over again. Those junk items will end up in this barrel, and then we have another brass funnel here that's set off to the side so it doesn't grab anything early. But we need a precision mechanism to be able to set the filter on. We need the precision mechanism to be able to set the filter. Let us do that right now. I've already got a golden sheet. Works. We'll go badoop. That'll go badoop. That one gets badooped. Then it goes past the filter because it doesn't match any of those, and it hits this guy and goes pew, back to the other side. I love this so much. So much fun to watch. And if we if you take a look at this, or if you're doing it by hand, you see that it's an incomplete precision mechanism, and it actually shows you what step you need to do next. So as you go through each one of those, it will actually advance that, and it's very handy. So along back to the side. And yeah, we basically just have to wait until this finishes, and end up with, hopefully, we end up with a precision mechanism. But, well, 20% chance, and my luck is what it is. This should be the last time. Go. And we get the advancement complex curiosities, and we now have a precision. So we can do here is we'll grab the filter, or we'll grab the funnel off, pop it on here, and then we can filter that. So now this funnel will only pick up these precision mechanisms. I did think about adding a hammer, a mechanical press, to the front of that process so that I could just put gold ingots in. The problem is because it has to recycle the rest so many times. It's this. Yep, there we go. All right, and then it should have enough. I put enough in there for 2 runs. Shouldn't get sucked up. Yep. 1. Excellent. So we can let that go, and hopefully we'll come back and there'll be a second one. In the meantime, I will show you what I have on the second floor. I like having multiple levels. I think it's fun. The barrel, or the chests, the drawers, eventually I'll go with it. They're being piped up. The contents are being piped up onto those that are all directly above it. As you can see, got one of each. These funnels, again, are filtered. At this time, it is an exclusion filter, so it's preventing the gravel from going in. Anything else, though, can go in. So, all right there. Once the gravel gets washed, whatever it washes out into goes into the barrel. Then each of the barrels has another pipe attached to it, and these all have extractor. These are all set up to extract, and they take whatever items get created and shunt it off into my storage system. You probably noticed the pipe there, that one, and there's a pipe that runs over. It's connected to that there, and that's where everything is going off to be stored, except for the raw ores. Those are all getting put over here. You can see gold and a copper on here right now. There's I'm still having problem where every once in a while we'll get like bone meal or something will end up over here, and I'm not 100% sure why. It doesn't hurt anything. It just kind of creates a weird flash. But basically, the raw ores, like that gold right there, gets put down. Then these fans are blowing through some lava, and the lava will actually smelt that raw metal. So that gold will eventually get smelted into a gold ingot, where it then gets picked up by these pipes, which again, they all have filters on them, and that gets sucked up, go over into the metal shop. So I have my resources are now being generated. Come over here, you can see I've got lots of iron, lots of zinc, copper, lots of gold, less of the more rare materials. And then over here we have all the rest of the stuff that doesn't need smelted. So bone meal, we got the Certus dust, flint. These guys I was having so much trouble with because they kept ending up on the smelting platforms, and I couldn't figure out what was going on, and it turns out that the ore that I had for them was full. Everything else is in a compacting drawer to make things nice, and the other nice thing is that these hold a lot of materials. I am not currently generating nether quartz or glowstone. I don't have a haunting setup for the sand. I haven't done anything really back here. I started getting ready to clear out some space to do some more immersive engineering, but I hadn't gotten around to it. My 2 chickens are both full completely. I still have not done anything further with the mob farm. I was waiting on that stuff up there, the blaze rods most. Get this improved. I did enable the muffler. The muffler set up so that all the mob noises aren't deafening me. I have another one over here for the chicken setup, but the next thing that I have, a plastic factory. This, I love this setup. We have a fluid extractor. Well, okay, first we have a block place. And this is attached to the storage system over there, so it has access to the acacia. Anyway, the block placer is filled up with acacia logs, and it is putting them right here in front of the fluid extractor. Fluid extractor sucks, slowly breaks the block, and pulls the latex out of it. The latex goes into the latex processing unit. Got a little latex, then we've got the water, which is coming from a pipe right here in the little water pool created underneath it. And that will eventually, once it's got 100 latex, it will bind the latex with the water to create tiny dry rubber. Over here to a potential fabricator. Now, unfortunately, a lot of these blocks do run off of power. So I had to build, you can just barely see. There is a mechanism heat generator here. And this thing generates Fe when it is, so obviously it's surrounded by lava. There's another lava source underneath it. Can't put one there because that's where the pipe has to come out. We could put a block here on top. That's why I had the stone sitting there. But as you can see, we don't really. Anyway, once that creates, takes the tiny dry rubber, it creates rubber fragment. Just missed it. That goes through this belt, puts it there, where we then have the same setup that we have over for the ores. So the fan blows through the lava, that smelts and turns it into plastic. So we now have plastic to be able to build a lot of stuff. And I did have to set this up first by manually placing logs because this actually does plastic to craft. Now, if we keep going, this is where I have the second muffler set up. I have a sheep farm. I brought up a bunch of sheep. I've got each of them dyed. That guy's about to do it. Each of them dyed a different color. And we've got pretty much the vanilla setup for the shearing behind them. There is the Animal Rancher available through, I think it's Thermal Series, but I don't remember which mod. The problem is that it only do the block immediately in front of it, so I would have to build 16 of them to do a setup like this, unless I wanted to build very expensive range increasers to be able to let them just loose in this pen. And it's not worth it, and it requires access to materials that we don't have right now. So this is fine. But I can show you how this works. Obviously, we have the dispenser filled with shears, a little bit of redstone behind it. There's an observer underneath the dispenser that is pointed at this, what's now currently a dirt block. And once that dirt block grows, the sheep eats it, turning it back into dirt. Each time it changes states, it causes the dispenser to fire, while the sheep regrow their wool once they eat, so they immediately get sheared. The shears are the wool is then picked up. There is a hopper minecart that is pushed into the block, the dirt block that they're standing on, and that picks it up, dumps it down into the hopper, which puts it into the barrel, and then I've got the pipes attached, snakes around, and goes into a storage controller right there. You got all the different ones. I marked each color of sheep, and then it all feeds right here. So you kind of tell the ones that I started with because they're the ones that I have the most. Yep, so if I need any colored wool for anything, we've got access to it all right here, and they're just going to keep generating it continuously as we go. Also, I did switch my beetroot out or my bone meal generation here out to just collect some beetroot because we now have bone meal being generated elsewhere. I don't need to have the bone here, and I figured we might as well have some beetroot. So the last thing that I want to do before we move on is I want to go through and clear out the quests. You can see I've got quite a bit because I've been a little bit busy. So the first thing is obviously we built the crushing wheel. I actually did this last time. I just forgot about clearing this. So now we have to go through and clean out our inventory. Hoppers. Obviously, I already have some fluid pipes, so those add in there. I think the only reason I don't have a crescent hammer already is that it used plastic to make. Oh, okay, no, I just haven't bothered. For now. Hey, machine frame. These are actually handy. I can make them. They're the bases for what you make all the industrial or the thermal series stuff. Yeah, all the various thermal series machines use those as their base. So what I want to start working on for the next episode is I would like to move away from just my stack of chests back here behind me and begin having like an actual storage system. So if we look, we can see this pack has both refined storage and applied energistics in it. I'm not sure which one I should do, to be honest, and I think I would like to leave it up to you guys. I have a feeling that you will vote refined storage. Everybody really seems to like refined storage, and there's nothing really wrong with it. They're both pretty much the same from my perspective. I personally like applied energistics just a tiny bit better, mostly because of how these work. Because the refined storage version of the terminal, the grid, the crafting variants are full blocks, while the applied energistics versions are these panels that you can put facades around, so it helps them blend into your base a little bit better than the refined storage stuff does, where you have to dedicate basically a whole space to that. Otherwise, they're pretty much identical. I think that applied energistics will actually be ever so slightly easier for us to actually get into, because I mistyped that. Because if we look, the main thing with refined storage are these processors. These are the basis of everything, and they're all made from these processor bindings. The processor bindings are made from string, which is easy. We've got plenty of it growing thanks to immersive engineering. The trouble is going to be the slime balls. I have not found any slime anywhere in the base. There's no, we haven't gone through a slime chunk, so I don't know if they're just not generating due to the way that the world works, or if I've just been unlucky and haven't happened to pass through a slime chunk. So the only way that we can get the slime easily is through create. So we can go through a process to get dough and lime dye, both of which we have access to, and I've made a couple of slime balls for other things. The trouble is that it would require a whole bunch of setup and machines to be built, all of which can be automated, but not right away, and it is extra stuff that is going to have to be put there and work. But if you compare that to applied energistics, the basis for applied energistics is the circuits, the calculation circuits, which these are actually pretty easy to do. This pack changes them to use deploying for create. So we just have to do that, which is super easy to do. We can set one of these up for each one and just let it do its thing. We don't need to use inscribers at all. I'm actually kind of excited about, because usually you got to have this whole inscriber set up that you kind of tuck away in a corner somewhere and let it do its thing whenever you need stuff. Whereas this, we can just use create and badao, you're done. Yeah, they still left the inscriber recipes in here, but I don't think you can make the inscribers. Yeah. Inscribers have been disabled and replaced with create sequenced crafting. If you already have one, it will still work, but you can't craft anymore. So we got to use these, which is fine. And I kind of want to do this. I'm kind of excited to do this. The one thing that might be a bit of an issue is getting our hands on the actual Certus quartz crystals. Now, we are getting Certus dust like crazy, so we can actually just make these seeds, because they're just some sand and the dust. And then I have an idea for how to spit it out into some water and all of that. But we might not have to, because budding crystals is in this. So we could actually just make a budding crystal that will then generate us the quartz crystals and the fluix crystals that we'll need to be able to do stuff with this pack. So, in my opinion, applied energistics looks like it would be less work to set up. Obviously, it's a bit of a bother to actually use, especially once your network starts growing to large sizes, because you have to worry about data channels and all that other stuff. And we do have the normal smart cables and everything in this pack as well, so that's something to consider. I have no issues with channels. I've done a lot of stuff with channels. I've done some really big bases before using multiple channels and having giant controllers and stuff, so I'm not afraid of that at all. So I guess just let me know what you guys think. Just to complete the pack, we will end up going through and building both of them, but one of them I'm going to build and set up, and the other one I'm going to build and throw out. So you guys let me know down in the comments below whether we should go refined storage or we should go with applied energistics. I will leave it up to you guys, and you let me know, and we'll build that one and get it all set up. Power isn't going to be an issue. We have ways to get power. We can do stuff with mechanism. I could just, literally just use that same setup that I have for the plastic, the little plastic setup. We can just do that same thing to get power for whichever network we use, because both of them are going to need power. We might have to use a couple of them to make sure that we have enough, but it's not a big deal. Yeah, you guys let me know which one it is that you want to see me build. I will get started on clearing out some space. I'm probably going to go down underneath this area here to build it, and underneath everything else, because we're going to have to run cables everywhere, regardless of which one we choose. Get the all the different storage drawers all connected, and everything all nice and integrated all together, so we can finally replace that boring stone crafting table, because it is a stone crafting table in this. Remember, we made it out of cobblestone way back at the beginning of the game. Yeah, let me know which one it is you think that I should do. I will do that one. In the meantime, make sure that you're liking the video if you're enjoying the progress that we're making. And if you're excited to see where things go from here, as well as which storage system we end up going with. Make sure you hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on future videos. And like I said, let me know whether we should go refined storage or applied energistics. Applied energistics. But I'll leave it up to you guys. You guys let me know. Until then, I will see you next time. Hope you have yourselves a wonderful rest of your day. And whatever you do, don't you dare go hollow.